Leaks. There are a lot of them, in Genshin at least. Whether you're a brand new player or an old veteran, you've most likely at least encountered to some degree leaks, whether they be true or false. And it's become such a prevalent part of the community that it's very difficult to determine what is true and what isn't true. Previously, at least in the early stages of Genshin Impact, you would have pretty reliable leaks. And they weren't things like when a character is coming, it was instead going to be what the weapon banner is, what the character does, what the kit is like, the constellations, even the model leaks sometimes. I believe previously we had the entirety of Inazuma's main cast be leaked prior to Inazuma even being announced. That was like a year in advance. But over time, the nature of leaks entirely has transitioned to something far worse for a lot of individuals. Now, whether you're free to play, a whale, a light spender, whatever the case may be, I think we can all agree that leaks do help you plan ahead. And I think leaks like being a banner schedule in the future, perhaps a banner next patch, is perfectly fine. Like if you were to announce a month ago that Shinha and Ayaka will be coming soon next patch, I don't think that would be a bad thing because it helps a lot of players really decide who they want. And sure, you've had some duds every now and again like Eula, but let's be honest here, I'm pretty sure everybody was expecting Eula at some point, but we just didn't get her. But instead I want to talk about the fact that they've transitioned from what was previously very helpful results and very helpful information into something that has been entirely shifted and warped. You may have a little bit of banner information here and there. You may have information on a potential character 8 months down the line. For instance, Lene and Lynette. Two characters I'm actually very interested in have just been leaked, but not really because that information's been changed. Ignoring that even, you also have situations in which there are entire story quests or very important story beats leaked early on. An egregious example of this, at least in my case, was Raiden's second story quest. I was extremely excited for that second story quest and I had the entirety of it leaked, or at least the very important bits of it leaked by thumbnails and subsequently video titles. So it's not even a situation in which you have to search for the leaks, it's a situation in which it is going to be presented to you whether or not you want it. If you watch Genshin, your home feed is now full of leaks, especially if the character is popular or at least anticipated. So what's the best way to handle this? What is the issue with leaks going ahead? I think that for most individuals, free-to-plays especially, everybody appreciates banner schedules. And I do think we all had just recently seen how dramatically a character can be changed early on. For instance, we saw Yelan go from a 2-unit application of Hydro to 1 unit, which is perfectly fine. It didn't break the character, but we also saw Dea going from a great, amazing character to, well, whatever she is now. And regardless as to whether or not you like the character, the kit can dramatically change, and I'm pretty sure a couple of times at least we've had kits change directly as a result of leaks. And what it oftentimes does is, if you are interested in the story, it kills it because you know the ending, you know the important beats of what's going to happen. Excluding that factor, you also have the situation in which a character announcement is no longer exciting. I still remember when we used to wait and wait and wait and hope for the information on the next banner or the next character, and the entire community would rally around a character being brought up, but now most people kind of know what's happening about a patch or two ahead. For me personally, I had the entirety of Fontaine's at least early lineup with their current designs leaked to me, and I didn't even intend to see it. And if you are one of the individuals who is trying to avoid leaks, you know how difficult it can be, and you also know the disappointment when you have characters you were excited for, or maybe even characters you didn't know you would be excited for, told to you. Because on the one hand, you have the opportunity to save. You can skip out on characters you are kind of interested in now in the expectation of these future units being great. But you also have the later on excitement kind of killed off for you early on. So leaks in total are just a double-edged sword. You're either going to have something really neat and really nice told to you, or you're going to have an awful time. There isn't really an in-between, unfortunately. Furthermore, with this point, we've also seen the leaks of, falsification of leaks, that being potential banner schedules. For instance, the reruns of certain characters at next patch. And this isn't in reference to any specific creator or anybody in particular. But what I do want to mention is the fact that maybe somebody could announce next patch we're having a Scara rerun, and subsequently anybody who's interested in that character is going to prepare now, and that may mean skipping out on Sina, that may mean skipping out on Dea, or Ayaka or Shenhe, because you're anticipating a character who ultimately won't come. And this can be for multiple reasons. First off, the easiest one is easy views. But the second reason could be that the individual who's posting that content wants that character to rerun, and as a result, they're hoping that by posting it and getting the community centered around it, Hoyoverse will oblige and give that character a rerun as well. But the downside is, obviously, you have free-to-play individuals who've been saving up for months and months and months and waiting for their one favorite character to come around, and maybe that character is right before this other character they're interested in, And now you have a situation in which they're having to choose between a potential character who they want and is already here, or a character who could potentially come up next patch. And this is further cemented by the concept that you have individuals who will either see a thumbnail or see a Twitter post or a Reddit post and run with that idea and run with that concept. And this means that they'll tell their friends, and their friends will be like, okay, I guess I'll save for Ayaka, or I'll save for Ganyu. And then they're saving and saving and saving, and it turns out their reruns aren't until 2 years later, or maybe it'll be a Kazuha situation in which every character's banner could potentially be a Kazuha rerun, and you're back to square one. I think overall, we all understand you can easily Photoshop any banner into any situation if you really want to. In the same vein as you could put in free Primo Gems in this event, or if you enter this code, whatever, onto YouTube, and pretty much you have a potentially banger video, at least in terms of initial views. But I also think that we need to understand that every leak can kind of be taken with a grain of salt. Even if somebody says, hey, next patch is Ayaka Shenhe banner, and we've seen it announced or at least teased, everything beyond that could be pure speculation. Story spoilers, they're awful regardless of whether or not they're true. They're just bad because people's excitement for a story patch, especially pertaining to a character they enjoy, is kind of dead and gone. And it means that once a new region releases, such as Fontaine or Inazuma or even Sumeru, you have to stay off the internet for a while to avoid them. But I do want to hear your opinions as well. What do you think? For me, the worst patch for leaks at least was anything to do with Inazuma, from the Raiden story quest to the entirety of the Raiden quest line to the entirety of the cast of Inazuma. It was awful. But early on, it was perfectly fine. In Sumeru, I'm gonna be honest, I did not care. What about all of you? Did you have a particular patch or particular region or even a character you were excited for that just kind of fell off? Or maybe you just kind of knew everything about them right before their release? Maybe you were anticipating a Dea great banner. Or maybe you were originally listening to the first leaks of her being extremely strong and then were saving up and skipping out on units, and now you're here and you're like, well, I mean, she's here, she's just not what you anticipated. I would love to hear, and I'd want to hear general thoughts and perceptions. Are you fine with leaks if they're pertaining to gameplay? Are you fine with them if they're pertaining to story? Or do you just not care and want them all together? Because I do think just as Hoyoverse cracks down on leaks, we kind of need to segment off what a good leak is versus a bad leak, because there's definitely a difference. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like down below, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. I personally will be waiting around for Fontaine at some point, hopefully Lene and Lynette, but if Nahida comes around, I'll grab her just for my Sino in particular, because unfortunately she's needed for every single Dendro team. Regardless, good luck with your pulls, and goodbye.